The discovery the bitter winds of Kepler 442c howled across the ice plains as Dr. Marcus Voss adjusted his thermal scanner for the third time that morning. The newly established human colony of New Meridian was barely 6 months old and geological. Surveys were still mapping the planet's frozen mysteries. His partner, xenogeologist Dr. Zara Okafor, trudged beside him through the knee-deep snow, her breath forming crystalline clouds in the -40 atmosphere. "Getting some strange readings here, Marcus," Zara called out, her voice crackling through the comb. "Metal signatures, but they're massive. Way too big for natural formation." Marcus stopped, pulling up the data on his portable display. The subsurface. Scan revealed something that made his pulse quicken, a metallic structure stretching nearly 2 kilometers beneath the ice. The geometric patterns were too precise, too deliberate to be anything natural. "This can't be right," he muttered, running. Additional scans. The colonization survey said this planet was uninhabited. No signs of previous civilization. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their communications specialist, jogged over from the survey vehicle. "What have you found? Base camp is asking for an update." Zara pointed to the scanner display. "Unless I'm reading this wrong, we're standing on top of something artificial, something big." The three scientists exchanged glances. First contact protocols were clear. Any evidence of alien civilization required immediate reporting to Colonial Command. But they were scientists first, and the allure of discovery burned stronger than protocol. "We need a closer look, Marcus." "Decided. Yuki, contact base and tell them we're extending the survey. Equipment malfunction or something." They spent the next 4 hours using thermal borers to melt through the ice. At 15 meters down, Marcus's drill bit struck something hard with a metallic clang that echoed through the shaft. His hands trembled as he scraped away the remaining ice, revealing a surface of dark, iridescent metal that seemed to shift color in the light. "My God," Zara whispered, her voice barely audible. "This isn't just a structure. Look at those hull lines, those design elements. This is a ship." The exposed section revealed intricate alien craftsmanship, smooth curves interrupted by geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Strange symbols were etched into the hull, glowing faintly with an inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Yuki ran her translation software over the symbols, but the results came back as incomprehensible. Whatever language this is, it's not in any database. This predates everything we know about this sector. As they worked to expose more of the vessel, Marcus noticed something troubling. The ice around the ship wasn't naturally formed. It showed signs of rapid freezing, as if the entire structure had been deliberately entombed. The hull itself bore no signs of damage, no crash indicators. "This wasn't an accident," he said slowly. "Someone buried this thing on purpose." Breached 3 days later, the survey team had been quietly reinforced by Dr. James Holloway, a xenorchaeologist from New Meridian's research division, and Lieutenant Rosa Delgado, a Colonial Defense Force engineer whose expertise in alien technology was officially non-existent. The team had managed to expose a significant portion of the vessel's upper hull, revealing what appeared to be an airlock or entry port. "The hull composition is unlike anything in our databases," Holloway reported, running his analyzer across the surface. "It's not just metal. There's some kind of organic component integrated into the structure. It's almost like the ship grew rather than being built." Lieutenant Delgado worked methodically with plasma cutters, following what appeared to be natural seam lines in the hull. Whatever's inside has been sealed tight for a long time. These aren't standard construction joints. They're more like ... surgical scars. The breakthrough came when Yuki discovered that the glowing symbols weren't just decorative. When she placed her hand on a specific sequence, the symbols pulsed brighter and deep within the ship. Something responded with a low, harmonic tone that vibrated through the ice. It's recognizing biosignatures, she explained excitedly. The ship's still partially active. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. After 3,000 years? The airlock, if that's what it was, began to iris open with agonizing slowness, revealing a circular portal lined with the same organic-looking metal. Beyond lay absolute darkness. Atmospheric readings show the interior is pressurized, Delgado reported. Oxygen-nitrogen mix, but with trace elements I don't recognize. Temperatures holding at just above freezing. They entered single file, their lights revealing a corridor that curved away into the darkness. The walls were covered in the same shifting metal, and more symbols glowed softly along what might have been control panels. The air carried a strange, sweet scent that reminded Marcus of ozone and copper. The architecture is all wrong, Holloway murmured, running his hand along a wall. These proportions? They're designed for something taller than human, but the ceiling height suggests they were also wider, more substantial. They followed the corridor for what felt like hours, passing. Sealed doorways and branching passages. The ship was enormous, far larger than their initial scans had suggested. It wasn't until they reached what appeared to be a central chamber that they found the first signs of the ship's true purpose. The chamber was filled with dozens of crystalline pods, each one roughly twice the size of a human. Most were dark. Their occupants long dead, but scattered throughout the chamber were pods that still glowed with soft, pulsing light. Biopods, Zara breathed. This isn't just a ship. It's an ark. Or a prison, Marcus thought but didn't say. The Awakening the team spent hours documenting the biopod chamber, their initial excitement giving way to growing unease. Of the 47 pods they could identify, only 3 still showed signs of life. The dead pods revealed glimpses of their occupants, tall, elegant beings with elongated limbs and faces that were hauntingly beautiful even in death. Estimated time since pod activation, 3,200 years, give or take a century, Holloway reported. But the technology keeping these 3 alive, it's beyond anything we understand. Lieutenant Delgado examined the pod controls with growing fascination and concern. These aren't stasis pods in any conventional sense. The bio readings suggest active cellular repair, genetic maintenance, even memory preservation. Whoever built this technology was trying to keep these beings not just alive, but perfect. The central pod drew their attention. Unlike the others, its occupant was clearly visible through the crystal surface, a female figure with pale, luminescent skin and features that were almost human, but somehow more refined. Her eyes moved beneath closed lids, and occasionally her lips would part as if she were speaking. She's dreaming, Yuki whispered. Marcus studied the pod's control interface. The symbols here were different, more complex, almost frantic in their arrangement. The question is, do we wake her up? That's not our decision to make, Delgado said firmly. This requires authorization from Colonial Command. But even as she spoke, the pod began to emit a new sound, a rhythmic chiming that seemed almost urgent. The other 2 active pods responded, their lights pulsing in synchronization. The system's destabilizing, Holloway announced, his scanner showing rapid changes in the pod's energy output. Whatever's keeping her alive, it's failing. Marcus looked at his team. They were scientists, explorers, representatives of humanity's first steps into this cosmic neighborhood. The being in the pod was possibly the last survivor of an ancient civilization. Could they let her die while they waited for bureaucratic approval? We're supposed to preserve life, right? He said quietly. That's what we do. The pod's surface began to dissolve, revealing the woman within. She was approximately 7 feet tall, with silver hair that seemed to move with its own current, and skin that held a faint luminescence. Her clothing was seamlessly integrated with her body, more grown than worn. She gasped, her eyes flying open, to reveal irises that swirled like galaxies. For a moment, she stared at the humans surrounding her, her expression cycling through confusion, fear, and something that might have been recognition. Then she spoke, her voice like crystal chimes, in a language that predated human civilization. But her tone was unmistakable. She was terrified. "Easy," Marcus said gently, raising his hands in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "We're here to help." She tried to sit up, failed, and looked around the chamber with growing panic. When her gaze fell on the dead pods, she let out a cry that echoed through the ship like breaking glass. Then she looked directly at Marcus and spoke a single word that somehow, impossibly, they all understood. "Condemned." Revelations Dr. Kina Voss, no relation to Marcus, despite the name, arrived from New Meridian Xenolinguistics department with a prototype universal translator that had been gathering dust since the colony's establishment. The alien woman, who had identified herself through gestures and simple drawings as Lyra Lay, had spent 2 days in a state of barely controlled terror. "The translator's crude, but it's getting fragments," Kina explained as she adjusted the device. "Her language is incredibly complex. It's not just words, but harmonic frequencies, emotional resonances, even quantum fluctuations. She's not just speaking. She's communicating on multiple dimensional levels." Through painstaking translation sessions, the truth began to emerge. Lyra Lai was indeed the last of her kind, the Kithara, an ancient race that had once spanned multiple star systems. But she wasn't a refugee or an explorer. Double quotes, sealed. For crime, the translator managed, parsing her melodic speech into broken human language. Not death. Worse. Forever sleep until judgment comes. "What crime?" Marcus asked gently. Lyra Lay's response sent chills through the team. The Kithara had been the guardians of something she called the deep song, a cosmic frequency that connected all conscious life in the galaxy. But her people had grown proud, had begun to use the deep song not to connect, but to control. "We made others silent," she continued, her voice growing stronger as the translator adapted. "Took their songs. Made them empty. For 1,000 cycles. We ruled through emptiness." Dr. Holloway leaned forward. "Who stopped you? Who built this prison?" "The builders," Lyra Lay whispered, and even the translator couldn't hide the fear in her voice. "Old ones, first ones. They came when galaxy grew quiet, judged us, sealed us to dream of our crimes until we understood." Lieutenant Delgado had been monitoring the ship's systems throughout the translation. Now she looked up with alarm. "The ship's core is activating. Energy levels are climbing rapidly. My awakening. Lyra Lay said, standing shakily. "It calls to them. The builders. They will come to see if judgment is complete. How long do we have?" Marcus asked. Before Lyra Lay could answer, Yuki burst into the chamber. "We have a problem. Massive problem. The ice around the ship is melting. But not from our equipment. It's coming from below. From the ship." Marcus felt the deck plates beneath his feet beginning to vibrate with a deep harmonic resonance. Throughout the ship, the dead pods were beginning to glow. "The others," Lyra Lay gasped. "The awakening calls to all who were sealed, but they have not learned. They have not changed. If they wake. She didn't need to finish. Marcus understood. The ship hadn't just been a prison, it had been a test. And they had just triggered the final examination. "We need to get off this ship," Delgado said urgently. "Now." But Lyra Lay shook her head. "Too late. The deep song begins. Either we pass. The judgment or the galaxy learns silence once more." The deep song, the ship rose from its icy tomb like a titan awakening, shedding millennia of frozen imprisonment as its systems came fully online. Throughout the vessel, the remaining Kithara biopods, pulsed with malevolent light as their occupants, began to stir. "Colonial Command is demanding answers," Lieutenant Delgado reported, her hands flying over her communication equipment. "3 battle cruisers are en route, but they won't arrive for 18 hours. Marcus looked at Lirelai, who stood transfixed before a crystalline interface that had emerged from the ship's walls. Her hands moved across its surface in complex patterns, and with each gesture, the harmonic vibration in the air grew stronger. "They wake angry," she said, her voice now perfectly clear through the evolved translator. 3,000 years of dreaming their hatred. They have learned nothing." Throughout the ship, Kithara began emerging from their pods, tall, beautiful, and utterly alien in their cold perfection. Unlike Lirelai, they showed no confusion, no fear. They moved with purpose, their voices joining in a harmony that made the human team's teeth ache. "The deep song," Dr. Holloway gasped, covering his ears. "They're beginning the deep song." Yuki's scanner was going wild. "I'm reading massive quantum fluctuations. Whatever they're doing, it's affecting space-time itself." Lirelai turned to Marcus, her galaxy eyes reflecting genuine anguish. "In our dreams, I learned what we had done. I felt the silence we created, the emptiness where once there was connection. But the others, they only remembered the power." The ship's walls began to resonate with symbols, the same patterns spreading across every surface. Through the viewports, the team could see the effect spreading beyond the vessel. The very air shimmered with harmonic distortions. "How do we stop them?" Marcus demanded. "The Builder's judgment," Lirelai said urgently. "If one of the condemned can sing the counter-harmony, can prove that redemption is possible, the test passes. But if I fail," she gestured to the sky, where stars were beginning to flicker and dim. Marcus grabbed her arm. "Then you won't fail. Tell us what to do." What followed was the most desperate collaboration in human history. As the Kithara's deep song spread outward at light speed, beginning to silence entire star systems, Lirelai worked with the human team to access the ship's core systems. The humans brought something the Kithara had never had: the chaotic harmony of a young, diverse species. Their thoughts, their emotions, their very biological diversity created interference patterns in the Kithara's perfect song. "Your species," Lirelai said wonderingly, as she integrated the human team into the ship's harmonic matrix. "You sing without knowing. Every thought, every feeling, it's music." The final confrontation took place in the ship's heart, where the other Kithara waited with cold fury. They spoke in harmonies that translated as contempt for the lesser species that had dared to interfere. But when Lirelai began her countersong, weaving human chaos into Kithara perfection, something unprecedented happened. The song that emerged was neither purely Kithara nor human, but something new, a harmony that celebrated difference rather than demanding conformity. As it spread outward, the silenced systems began to sing again, each in their own unique voice. The Builders never appeared, but their judgment was clear. The ship's prison systems deactivated, and the remaining Kithara found themselves truly free for the first time in millennia. Some chose exile among the stars. Others remained to learn from the humans who had saved them from themselves. Lirelai became humanity's first alien citizen, working to establish the harmonic accord that would govern first contact protocols throughout the galaxy. And Marcus Voss, the geologist who had made humanity's greatest discovery, often reflected that they hadn't just found an alien ship buried in ice. They had found the future, singing in perfect, chaotic harmony. The end